Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leaders Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the No Regret Money Plan, created for smart tech professionals who know they're doing well, but aren't certain if it's enough. We help you invest cash wisely, make the most of stock awards, minimize your tax bill, and create clarity and confidence so you can spend less time thinking about your money and more time living the life you want. If you'd like more information, look me up on LinkedIn. That's Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Today on our podcast, we have Eric Kudler, who is a senior software engineer at Disney. Eric is an experienced leader who specializes in web app development. Thank you for joining us today, Eric.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let's start with web app development. So tell me, what does that phrase mean to you?
Sure. So in my head, it's kind of like the more customer-facing side of web development, I guess, or I guess software engineering is the more preferred term. But pretty much all of my work has been web on some sort of website. So I like to think that we are using these websites as more of like a tool or an application itself, as opposed to just like telling people that I work on like a restaurant's website where, it just tells you the hours, it tells you like what time they're open, and if lets you make a reservation. This is in my head, what I do is a little closer to storytelling. It's a little bit more of like interacting with the user, kind of leading them somewhere, and then like supporting them when they finally make a decision on what they want to do next on the page. Because web development has just like changed so much since I was in college. It's gone from just being like HTML and CSS and like jQuery to being like the all-encompassing thing that we do on any screen, really.
Got it. So are you actually writing the content that goes on the web pages, or are you more in the design to make sure that it's eye-catching and that it keeps people's attention, or like what part of that are you focused on?
So I definitely don't do the content. I would say I'm more like on the design, the storyboards and wireframes, and then obviously the engineering side to make those things possible and make them work.
All the engineering, the back and stuff. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrific. Well, this podcast, not today's podcast, all of our podcasts are about leadership in the tech space. And so my question to you and everyone who comes on the podcast is, what does leadership in the tech space mean to you?
Oh, so to me, it can mean two things, I guess. One is like management, which I think is kind of like something on everybody's mind as a software engineer, because it's kind of like the default path, at least at like the larger companies. You start out as a junior engineer, you become an engineer, you become a senior engineer, and then the next thing for you to do is just become a project manager or a product manager. And I never liked that for myself. I don't know how the average person feels about it, but I do feel like I've known a lot of like people who went from being engineers to managers, and they are miserable. Not all of them, obviously,
For
but like
sure. Yeah.
um, it's because it's a completely different job, right? Like a manager, I think, is mostly about working with people, and obviously it helps if they have the experience in the thing that they are working on. Like obviously it helps for a manager to know engineering, to know how easy or difficult things are or how they would do things. But it's not mostly that. For the most part, it is, handling handling the customer or your own manager who is deciding what they want, and then also like being able to support the people that work underneath you. And then engineering is kind of a bonus on that. So that was a big thing at Amazon, is that they were training you to be a manager, and it caused a lot more problems than it solved, in my opinion. So then the other side of tech leadership, which I think is a little bit more exciting. I mean, everybody has their own opinion. Would be like just the authority on a team on the technical side. Like every time I start a new job, there's always a period where I'm meeting everybody and I'm nervous, and like not sure what to do and have no context on what the job is going to be like. And then you're in like a stand up or a meeting, and there's always one person who's just like the authority. Like you can just tell that this person knows the platform, knows how to make a decision, like has a general context on uh the engineering environment, to like outside of work, to understand what to do and where to do, and to make decisions both on like new features, and then also like just supporting what comes down from the chain. And to me, that's a lot cooler. I like the idea that if you just get good enough at your job, it just becomes effortless, and that other people will see that, and you can just kind of like become a mentor to those people, and kind of cultivate the culture yourself just by just by knowing what you're doing. So tech leadership, I think, can be both, but I hope that in the future we put more focus on the second one, and I hope that that's where my career goes.
Yeah, it's so good that you have that framework and that you see it that way and you see clearly what you actually want. And we shouldn't feel, I don't think any of us should feel pressured to move up, quote unquote, in the ranks, because moving up is not necessarily, you're moving up in the hierarchy maybe, but you might not be moving up in happiness or even
Yeah.
compensation. Sometimes, there's a lot of managers who have people who report to them that make more money than they do because frankly, they add more value.
That makes sense to me. Like, and I just enjoy like being an individual contributor. There's like the idyllic version of being a software engineer, in my opinion, is like getting a task, putting on some music, and then going and just working on that thing until it's done and watching it kind of grow and come from nothing. Like all the things that I do are things where I get to work with my hands. Like everything I enjoy is drawing, it's baking. There's something very cool to me about like making something out of nothing, taking like a bunch of things and then making something that isn't just the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Now, one thing that you mentioned that I find interesting is, there's in a stand-up or in a meeting, there's typically one person that's clearly the authority on the technical side that's there. So this sort of imaginary, what's the word I'm looking for? Avatar of a
Mhm.
person. Um, what are the attributes of that person? Like, have they been at the company a long time? Do they have to have been there for a long time to kind of know where all the bodies are buried? Do they like what is that person like? What does it take to get to be that person?
That's a good question. I've been thinking a lot about that lately because it does seem like intangibles, doesn't it? Like you just want you know how whenever you're with like a group of people, there's one person who's always effortlessly cool. This is like the engineering equivalent of that. This is just the person who like they make it seem easy, but there's obviously a lot of factors that go into it. And I think Amazon, I know I was just kind of criticizing Amazon a minute ago, but I worked there before my current job. That's why I keep talking about Amazon. Um, I think one thing they did understand was that they had this set of leadership principles that I think were actually a pretty good definition of what it takes to be a person in charge. I don't think they always adhered to them, but I think like on paper, this was a good framework to create like capable engineers, and some of those like being able to disagree but still being able to go along with what other people think, like making your voice heard, but also acquiescing when somebody else takes authority on the figure. I don't think they necessarily have to be at the company for a long time. That helps. But I think what they should do is like have a general air of the world of engineering, like somebody who's just kind of aware of new technologies that are emerging or problems that commonly come up in this sort of environment. Like I said, I'm in software engineering specifically, so it's great when you get tasked. Like in the past, I had to write up in a previous job, I had to write up how to build a front end system, and somebody chimes in and is like, make sure you look into whether we want to use a server side library or a client side library, and I had no idea what that meant. So at least at the very least, that's something to Google, right? Like I didn't know what I didn't know, and this person did know, and also this person made it clear if you want to ask them questions, you can. Uh, so there's like a warmth to it too. There's like a reassuring quality that like I know this stuff, and also I'm willing to take the time to share it with you. I might be busy, but we can make it work. So there's like a mentorship, I guess would be a better word for it. Um, there's a general sense of experience. Uh, and I think that comes a lot from one of the other Amazon leadership principles that I did like called Learn and Be Curious, where people were just constantly, on paper at least, were constantly encouraged to try new things and build and be okay with failing if it meant you ended up with some new aspect out of it. So those are things, like I said, I don't think they always actually enforce these principles. I think it was mostly about delivering in the Amazon ecosystem, but at least they had taken the time to develop out what it meant to be an engineer, and those are things that what it meant to be a good like leader, and those are things I do actually carry with me at my current job.
Yeah, that's terrific. So this person who's effortlessly cool, I like that phrase. In standing up, they don't just have the technical expertise, but
Yes.
they're also proactively doing things that makes them a leader. It sounds like being open and
Yes.
offering feedback and answering
Well,
questions and
yes,
being
being well connected.
supportive and
and not making it seem like a big deal when they are too. Like I think also that person is always usually very busy at work. I assume like they're not necessarily a higher level than everybody else. It's just that they're able to make these decisions. They're able to commit to their decisions, which is something that I always struggle with. Like just being very sure of yourself when you make a decision. And I guess that probably you can't really control how often you're right in a job like
Yeah.
this. There's always things that could go wrong, but I guess the idea is that confidence comes from knowing that you can back up your decisions. If something does go wrong, you can fix that too. And I think that that's something that I need to work on. But I think that that's a pattern that I've noticed in the past is that a person is confident and their confidence can be backed up. So that's probably something that is very helpful to understand. And again, I think that also comes from just like a history of both experience and a history of failure. So yeah, I would make put the focus around those sorts of things. And I guess delivering is also important in a way. Like you have to how long what do they say? It takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something.
Yeah.
I think it's
Right.
like that.
Yeah, yeah, you got to put in your time. And then, I love the collaborative aspect that we find in the tech world. I don't work in the tech world, and I'll tell you, coming from finance, that collaboration, that attitude does not exist in the financial world among
Imagine.
finance people. Yeah. So, it's one of the things I really love about this space. So, thinking about today in the job market, it's not so great, right? There's a lot of layoffs, a lot of turnover, a lot of things going on. There are definitely a lot of job openings out there, but there's just sort of a lot of turmoil. And so, having been through a layoff like I have, I don't know if you have or not, but having been through one, I can tell you it's never expected, right? It just happens, and you get blindsided.
Yes.
And there's probably not many tech workers out there right now who don't have some level of thought about layoffs in the back of their mind. So my question is this: for those that are working and today, what is it that they can do to make themselves, to really future-proof themselves against layoffs in the future, or make them more marketable when they're back on the job market?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know much about future proofing. I have been through a bunch of layoffs, but I can definitely help with making yourself marketable or make the best
Sure.
of a world of layoffs because I don't know if that's changing anytime soon. Uh, so I would say it kind of ties into what I was saying before about learn and be curious. I think it's important for an engineer nowadays to find an identity in like software outside of work.
Mm,
The nice thing about being a software engineer is that it's something needed by literally everybody. Like every single job out there has some kind of software engineering part. So if this is something that you are passionate about, which I can't speak for everybody, but it's something that I've always been very excited about, you can find a place where you can work on something for yourself or for
mm,
others and learn a lot along the way. There, you can make video games. You can help NASA, who publishes data sets and looks for help archiving them or developing solutions for climate change. Like these are just things that are publicly made available. You can work on social media apps. That was something that I did for a little while just for fun, like just to learn
mm,
APIs. Uh,
mhm,
I think because there are plenty of jobs out there that are lucrative and that are like comparably stable to software engineering. But if you're an accountant, you can make a nice living. But you're not going to be accounting outside of work. You're not going to be doing this for fun on a personal project.
yeah.
Software, you could just apply it to anything that you care about. If you like movies, you can work on special effects. If you like if you like art, you can work on there are mediums that are being developed just through technology. And I
Mm.
already mentioned video games, science, that sort of thing. So like find something that you enjoy doing through software. Because you learn at least in my experience, it's so much easier to learn by building a thing that you care about than it is um, by reading or by working.
Yeah, and you're so right. The skills that you have in that world translate into all worlds, because everything's very early going in that direction, right? So
Yes.
you can actually pursue pretty much any direction you can think of. You can
Yeah,
take your skills and go.
and there's a lot of advantage to that too, right? Like my philosophy is that if you're trying to make money on a personal project, you're probably not going to get very far. Everything that makes
Yeah,
money has been done in my experience. You're
yeah,
probably not going to sit down at home and develop the next great trading algorithm or I don't know, social media app. I think those are now only made by like companies with VC backing and huge marketing budgets before they even finish anything. But if you
right.
build something that you just are interested in that doesn't exist, you can do that still. There's so many things that still don't exist that nobody's really worked on because there's no giant firm that wants to invest in it. And those will still get you places. You can still go and give lectures at conferences and meet new people or collaborate online. There's still like a whole world of experiences that you can have out there just by building something that you are passionate about. And I hope people understand that, because that's how I got into this. When I was in college, I guess software engineering was still kind of a new position. So it was just something that was always very exciting. There was just a world of things to do. And I don't think that's changed, but I do think the perspective on on tech has changed a lot since then. So maybe people aren't as motivated as they used to be, but there's still plenty of reasons to be motivated.
Yeah, I think that's just such a fantastic suggestion. So I'm glad you brought that to us. Let me ask you this. If you could go back in time just 5 years and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Oh, gee. Invest in NVIDIA, apparently.
That's not
I
allowed.
don't know if
Come on.
anyone saw that one coming.
That's
Yeah.
easy.
I would say, well, one big thing would be write down your accomplishments at work. That was something I was actually laid off from Amazon. And like the entire time I was at Amazon was like the biggest job that I had at the time. It was a company that everybody knew. It was like very tech focused company. Like I started that job being like, once I leave this job, I can write my ticket. I can go wherever I want. And then while I was there, I remember specifically saying to myself, man, this thing is great. I can't wait to talk about this in a future interview or put it on my resume. And then as soon as I was let go from Amazon, I was just like, what did I do there? It's been 3.5 years and I don't remember anything. Like everything just blurs together. So
Yeah.
if you have something that you think is like notable, definitely make a note of that now, especially if it involves statistics. It seems like recruiters really love seeing statistics on a resume, like this improved viewership 60%, or this reduced latency by 500 milliseconds or something like that. But also just like any experiences you have, just make a note of them so that just you have that supply next time you have to update your resume, because I do think software jobs are temporary. But you can be a software engineer for your whole life. You don't have to, if you did hypothetically get let go from a job, that's not the end for you. You're going to get another job. It's just, you gotta figure out what you want and the fastest way to get it.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Appreciate it so much. Thanks so much, Eric, for joining us on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being so generous with your experience.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to talk to you.
Absolutely. So just as a reminder, this is sponsored by the No Regret Money Plan, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their life with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Thanks again, Eric.
Thank you.